There are still some teams who are looking to get into maybe Champions League football next season or Europa League. You're talking about Chelsea, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Bournemouth. So which of these four teams that I have mentioned you think that can actually get their way into maybe Champions League or yes? Or
I said, so you've spoken about those three. And then I would say right now I'm looking at Forest and Bournemouth. I think those are the ones I believe right now. Because I think Bournemouth had a very good run with a lot of injured players. So with players coming back, you expect them to be able to keep up their consistency and go their distance and kind of rejuvenate the team that's getting a bit tired. So that's why I think Bournemouth have a slight edge. Because I look at Newcastle and Chelsea. I was speaking about Chelsea. That look, the defense is just, they are appalling. I think, I'll be very honest, I don't like Levi Colwill. I think he's a very poor defender. I think he started too many games for how badly he plays. Yeah. And I think I feel like every time I watch Chelsea, he's doing something bad. I feel like he costs a goal or he makes a mistake every time I watch Chelsea play. That's not something you want to see from a defender. Like, it just, maybe it's the matches I watch. Maybe I'm watching too many of what's the word I'm looking for? Too many of the big games with Chelsea. So maybe he looks okay in the normal games. But even sometimes when I go and watch highlights, he's done something. So it's like, I feel bad for singling him out, but it's just to prove the point. If this is supposed to be your leading centre back, I see him wearing the captain's armband. He's supposed to be a leader of the back line, and this is what he's doing. It just makes me shiver, you know. It's not something you want to see in a top team. Like I said, Newcastle, hit or miss. I think their weakness is rather Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe is a very limited coach in the sense that he's very one-dimensional. I feel like he doesn't switch up enough. So I think sometimes when they meet a team that's a coach who's a bit more tactically intelligent, they get found out. Unai Emery, good coach as well, but more of a tournament coach for sure. We've seen him in the Europa League. We've seen him in the Champions League. When he knows he can play on the counter, use his game plan, match big teams, he looks great. But in the league, we saw him struggle with Arsenal. We saw him struggle to win a title with PSG, I believe, in his first season.
The last game, they lost to Crystal Palace in the league.
Yeah, but Crystal Palace are a decent team, so no disgrace in that. But he has, and the thing is, a lot of the time when they lose, they get beaten very badly. They have some games where they just really fall apart. So the Palace game is one of them. They just got spanked. So again, and they have a very poor defensive record. I saw a stat, I think in about 7 or 8 of their games, they've conceded their first shot on target. And I want to point out Emi Martinez. I think Emi Martinez has a very good reputation because of his international, exploits. He's great at penalty shootouts. He can make some big saves. In international football, where you play 7-8 games, that's great. But in the league where you need that concentration for the whole time, I don't think he's a top tier keeper. I think he's in the tier below, maybe even the tier below that. So he's not a top tier keeper. So if, his reputation makes it look like he's better than he is, but I think he has severe weaknesses as a keeper that hinder him. So there's that weakness. Which other team have I left out?
I think you've spoken about Bournemouth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So and then Nottingham Forest, like I said, lack of attacking spark. Very solid team, very good defensive. When they take the lead, they usually take the points. They are very good at controlling the game, restricting the space and that kind of stuff. But again, when you play a certain way, you're a counter-attacking team, teams are just going to adjust by, look, we are not going to press you high. We are not going to throw bodies forward. We are going to, play very slow, very cautious football, not lose the ball, that kind of stuff. And it makes it difficult for you because if you rely on the counter-attack and they protect the transition, you are now stuck and you don't have different weapons. And I think that's, again, Nuno Espirito Santo's weakness. He can't coach teams to be protagonists in that way. So, Nottingham Forest, I think, when they get into Europe, they also do well in Europe next season because teams will want to go at them. And they'll be prepared to sit back and counter. But when they have to, play in the league next season and teams are afraid of them, teams will sit back, their performance will drop. And also with their squad be able to compete. So I think, like I said, all these teams have significant strengths and significant weaknesses. Don't get me wrong. They are all very good teams in their own different ways. I think Emery has coached their team very well. When the attack clicks, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of energy, they play very well. Newcastle have Alexander Isak. He's having a very good season. Bournemouth, great pressing team, very direct team, very energetic, very difficult to play against. So it's not like it's all bad for these teams, right? But you just have to wonder whose weaknesses will expose them more going forward. I think Chelsea are one of those teams because it's a young team as well and they're in a funk right now. I don't see them lifting themselves out of the funk. But the other teams, I think, have a better chance. But Aston Villa, I think their defensive situation is very poor. Because I didn't think Disasi was quite good at Chelsea either. And if you've loaned him to now be your starting centre-back, it shows that there's problems with your team as well. So those two teams especially, I just don't see them making the Champions League. They might make some of the other European places, because look, they could be up to 8 or 9 teams in Europe for England next season, depending on who wins the cups and that kind of stuff. But for top 4, I think Aston Villa and Chelsea, I'll be very surprised if they make it. Those two teams,
in the Champions League places.
I think
so Chelsea, Newcastle, Europa.
I think what is looking like is that the five Champions League places is between Bournemouth, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Liverpool, Arsenal, City. So those 6 teams will make up those 5
Villa
places.
out.
Villa and Chelsea are out.
Okay.
Yes.
So Villa, Chelsea, Europa.
Someone might go to their conference, but
okay. Yeah, I'll quickly on Villa. Which other teams in?
Yeah, initially I didn't think Nottingham Forest will make my top 4, but looking at the way things are going, yeah, they might just end up sneaking into the top 4. And if England ends up having 5 teams to qualify into the UEFA Champions League, at this point I'll tip Bournemouth to be that team to join the other 4 to represent England in the Champions League.
Yeah, Bournemouth are definitely, just say Bournemouth are my 5th, but Newcastle are the ones I think have the best chance outside my top 5.
Ahead of Newcastle, because they, in big moments, critical moments, when you expect them to be able to deliver something, they still end up falling short somewhat. And that Liverpool game gave me a very good idea. I mean, when you're playing against a team like Liverpool and you don't have too many chances like that to score, and you get that Callum Wilson chance, that one-on-one chance that he had, and you miss it. Yeah, those are those key moments.
Well, to be fair to them, there's a reason Callum Wilson is no longer the starting striker.
Yeah, well, Alexander
Isak, he's been wasteful in the last couple of years, battling injuries and
exactly. I think Isak has that chance.
Yeah. So once you're missing out on that, and on top of that, you end up losing some crucial games in there somewhere. Yeah, I don't see it. Though Bournemouth have fallen short a couple of times, but you look at how they have approached games, even games that they've lost, you can still see them creating chances, in most cases missing chances. That tells you that this team, on those days, things just don't work. But for the most part, they end up being very productive. But for Newcastle, when things don't work, they are quite flat. And I think should they end up winning the Carabao Cup, they will be more than content and might get swollen-headed and just end up just cruising through the rest of the season, knowing very well that, yes, they've ended a very long title drought. And for the manager, he might just end up saying, okay, I've gotten the Carabao Cup. I've more or less secured my place as the manager of Newcastle for next season, at least next season. And I think that swollen-headedness or like a lackadaisical approach towards the end of the season might just end up robbing them of a spot in the Champions League.